Good evening, everyone. Now, this seminar is all about how to approach a particular subject in actuarial science, right? So, what we'll cover is, uh, you know, how to approach a subject, okay? Then, how to study for it, okay? So, study for exam. Then we'll talk about if you could not clear a particular exam, what to do next. We'll talk about what happens in the next session if you could not clear one subject. Then should you go for multiple subjects? Should you go for the same subject again, one subject, two subject, three subject? Okay, so next session. And we'll also talk about common mistakes. That we make in the examination. Now our biggest time is going to be how to approach a particular subject, right? So first we'll talk about our approach to a particular subject. Now each subject, especially our two mathematics subjects, CM12 and CS12, the two statistics subjects. Now these subjects and later on practical subjects, these all will have two main you can say these have actually two subjects are paper A and paper B, right, where we have our theory or concepts, and paper B's are practical. So for CM12 we have Excel, and here we have our concepts, and we have R programming. So we'll talk about individually each one of them. Okay, how to approach the concepts part of a subject as well as how to approach the practical part of the subject. So first of all, let's talk about our paper A. Now we used to say written paper and online paper, but now both of our paper are online. Now I am according to me, I am going to talk about IFOA, okay, because that is what I am assuming everyone is from IFA Institute. If you want me to talk about any other institute, especially IAI, I have not much idea about other institutes, but I can talk about IFOA and IA. So you can just write in the chat that any question you might have relating, and throughout if you have any question, just write in the chat, or whenever possible I will ask you to ask your question, what do we say, by unmuting yourself. Okay, so paper A, in all of these subjects are practical subjects. Our paper A, we will have our concepts and we will have practice. These are the two ways. First we will be learning all the concepts, and then we will be talking about the practice part. Okay, in English we'll be talking about CB1 also from IAI as well as IFOA. Now see, first of all, IFOA and IAI, the studies will be exactly same because the course is exactly same, even though examination has a little bit of difference that I'll talk about. Okay, that how to approach the examination, what are the differences in both of the examination, but your studies is going to be exactly same. So even if you are giving paper from IFOA or from IAI, you will find that because the course is exactly same and finally almost the paper pattern is same. That is why your approach towards the subject will be exactly the same. Okay, so whenever we talk about our paper A, first of all you will have to learn the concepts. That's going to be very important, but practice is also very, very important. Because we are now in our professional examination, what happens is we'll have to study regularly. If you do not have a regular study pattern, what happens at the end, you will have a lot of stress, and you will have to give a lot of time to do the same amount of study. Correct? So if you're aiming for any subject, if you just aim for passing marks, the chances that you will pass would be very less. So your aim should never be of passing mark. Your aim should be as high as I can. I always suggest that students should go for 90%. I'm not expecting that we'll be studying that much that any concept or any question asked from the subject we will be able to answer. I'm giving a room of 10%. Okay. So your studies should be such that your aim should be that I will be able to solve 90% of the subject. So there might be some questions that you could not do because at that moment there were some problems, or maybe you do not remember a particular concept. Okay, so you have a room of 10%, error of 10%. Then when you solve 90% of the paper, you will find out that later on there were some mistakes and you only could correctly solve about 80% of the subject. And because you could solve 80% of the paper, you will get about 70% marks. Okay. So if you are aiming to pass, because our passing marks, now this time passing marks were about 58 in all of the subjects, almost all subjects, so 55 to 58. So if you are aiming to pass, what happens is if you are aiming for 60 or 65, the chances that you will make a lot of mistakes is definite, and what happens is it goes down are 58 marks. So that becomes a problem. So definitely aim as high as you can, and you will definitely get up to 70 marks. Now students who tell me that they approached in such a way that they try to attempt more than 90. Now see, whenever you are aiming to 90, you will be able to attempt from 85 to 95 marks. Okay. So even if you attempt 95, there is no guarantee that you will get 60 or 65 or 70. It depends on how accurate your answer is. Okay. So the two types of mistakes that we see in the examination, one would be conceptual mistake, and the other is going to be calculation mistake. Okay, conceptual mistake, it happens sometimes while we are reading the question, we mistake the question. Sometimes we were not very well versed in that concept, and happens, not a big deal. But obviously if your concepts are very clear, chances of chances of conceptual mistake becomes very, very, very small. Sometimes even though your concepts were perfectly clear, just because you did not have enough practice of those type of questions, you make conceptual mistakes. So for conceptual mistakes or for calculation mistakes, practice is the key. Sometimes just to understand a particular concept, you need to practice all kinds of sums, all different kinds of sums. So practice is going to be the key. So if you do not give regular studies, what happens is at the end we do not have enough time to bake our concepts very well. Okay. And even though you practice, sometimes you miss a particular concept and you make some calculation mistakes and stuff. So I always suggest that if you're studying daily, at least 2 hours a day for a subject, or you can say 10 hours in a week. I'm expecting that you will take some time off, maybe some Sunday, maybe some Saturday. That is why I'm hoping that you will study at least 5 days regularly. And this does not mean attending classes or doing homework. This is other than that. Okay, so you should regularly revise your concepts, and as you keep on solving your practical practice sums, what happens is you will understand concepts better. Okay, you will try to always understand why they have asked a particular question. Most of the questions are designed in such a way that they are trying to emphasis on one concept or the other. So sometimes just because I solved a particular sum, I understand a concept better. So your approach should always be first learn the concepts and then practice questions from it. So you have book. So first just read the concept from the book. Then second would be practice the questions given in the book. But unfortunately, just the book questions are not good enough for us. We'll need some kind of practice booklet or something. So we provide practice booklet to our students. Similarly, if you are studying in some other institute as well, they might have provided you with some practice booklet. Okay, or IFOA actually provides with the practice booklet called revision notes. Even though those revision notes are pretty expensive, I'll just show you. Okay, if you go to acted.co.uk, and there you will have paper prices and stuff, whatever. I'll just show you on Acted site. This is an college or institute. They are the ones who provide material for IFOA. Okay, and because Indian Institute also uses the same material, therefore it's the same. So if you go to study material, okay, you will hear prices, study material. They will show you the prices of the study material. These are the book prices. Okay, this is in pounds. So this is 262 pounds. That is almost 26,000 rupees. Okay, and so most likely you will have book. So the thing for practice you would need is this revision notes. So if you are going to buy something, you should buy this revision notes. So this is 107 pounds. That is almost 10,000 rupees. So almost, see, for these 4 subjects it is almost 10,000 rupees each, these revision notes. Okay, now this is the only legitimate way where you would be able to find practice notebooks, okay, practice material, or from some tuition classes. So practice is going to be very important. Now in your book, first of all, you have questions with the concepts, then you have questions after the chapter, as well as at the end you have something called as question bank. Okay, so you have question bank as well. So these are the different places where you have questions to practice. In your book you have question bank, and also you should have some practice material with us. Now that revision notes is nothing but past 10 years papers combined. Okay, so is there a problem in screen viewing? Okay, let me just check. Yash, if you can just most likely it is problem from your end, so try to disconnect and reconnect. Okay, most likely it will fix it. Okay, let's, is it okay now? No, the screen is visible. Okay, good. So we were talking about practice. So for practice, again, revision notes is nothing but past 10 years question papers, and they compile it according to chapter wise. Now similarly, most of the tuition classes would do the same for you and give you some practice booklet for that. Okay, we do the same. We take into account past 15 years papers and compile it. Now you have question papers as well, okay, but I'll talk about that later on. Okay, first we'll talk about how to study. So for each subject you have to take into consider the concepts and then practice. So as I said, at least 2 hours a day for at least 3 to 4 months would be required for any subject. Okay, so if you do not take into account regular studies, then either it will be very too much pressure at the end, or you will miss out by a few marks. Now a lot of students, what happens is they fail by just 1 mark or 2 mark or 3 mark or something like that. So that is the most disappointing part, that we studied so much, but just because we missed maybe a little bit, okay, that makes a big difference. Okay, so our aim is always going to be to go beyond that threshold, not miss that by a little bit. Okay, because that is going to be the most painful part. Okay, so for us, studying the concepts and then practicing them is very important. Now how to practice? First of all, when you have completed a particular subject, then you take your practice material of that subject and practice all the sums. You will always find a few sums that you could not do directly. At the beginning there will be a lot of sums that you won't be able to do the first time. Just mark them. Okay, marking those particular questions that you could not do, maybe with a circle. Okay, then look for the solution. Try to understand what have they done in that particular solution, what I could not understand, why have they used that approach. Maybe sometimes what happens is, in the previous question we use some other approach, and in this question we use some other approach. Why is that? Why is there difference in approach? Okay, and then most likely you will be able to do that sum after looking at the solution. Okay, but after you have completed maybe 3 or 4 chapters, you will come back and you will have to revise all the chapters again. At that time, definitely look at all the questions that you have circled and try to figure out, can you solve it now? Try to solve them again. That would be your second practice. Okay, so maybe when you have completed half of your course, you will come back and do your second practice on the same topics that you have already done. At that time there will still be some questions that you will not be able to solve directly in your first attempt. So then mark them maybe with a star. Okay, so now you know that these questions are definitely difficult. I could not solve it the first time, and now again in my second approach I could not remember the concept how to solve it again, even though I saw the solution last time. So this time you have to make sure that these questions are very important for you, because you could not solve it even the second time. So when you come up to those questions in the third time, in your third approach, maybe near the examination, what you'll have to do is look for these and these questions and make sure that now you can solve the starred questions correctly. And there will always be a few questions, maybe one question or two questions in some difficult chapters, that will be that just goes out of our head. We are not able to solve them, even after practicing 3 or 4 times, even after looking at the solutions, we are not able to solve. Leave those questions that come in the 10% of the questions that we are going to say is out of our bound. Okay, so remember those 1 or 2 questions, chances of them being asked in the examination are very, very, very small. And if that does happen, that is very unfortunate. But we still have that 90% to concentrate on, right? So the 90% of the portion that you could solve very well, concentrate on that. Make sure that if that has been asked in the examination, then you won't make any mistakes. So make sure whatever is in your grasp is done very well. So if there is a chapter that you are very sure that you will be able to solve, then you should make sure you don't make a mistake in it. Okay, so always practice every chapter, every subject 3 times. That is very important. Once when you do it the first time, second time when you are revising those chapters, and the third time just before the examination. If you do your practice 3 times correctly, that means you do not cheat. Okay, I'm not getting this question, I'll just look for what is the approach, I'll just look back and look at the solution. If you don't do that, if you disciplinarily you make sure that you don't cheat, then and you do it 3 times, there is no way you will not clear that examination. Maybe with only 70 marks, maybe with 80 marks, maybe with 90 marks. That depends on, first of all, how well you have practiced, and second of all, how the paper goes on that particular day. But if you do your practice 3 times, chances that you will not clear the examination is going to be very, very low. Sometimes we do make mistake on that day, that happens. Okay, that we cannot control. Sometimes on that day things go wrong, that is totally different. Okay, but if you do practice well, you will not have a problem most of the time. Okay, so this is going to be our approach. First of all, learn the concepts. Second, practice 3 times. So if you practice very well, you will eliminate definitely your conceptual mistakes and most of your calculation mistakes. Now what happens is, papers, especially CM1 and CM2, okay, these papers have much more calculations than CS1 and CS2. CS1 and CS2 usually you have elaborate sums, but the calculation part is small. So chances of you making mistake on your calculator is less in CS1 and CS2, and chances of you making mistakes in your calculator is much more in CM1, CM2, because you will have calculations a lot. Okay, so you'll have to master your calculator. You should not make any mistakes. Now the problem is that will never be 100% secured, right? I have been teaching actuarial science for past 5 years, and also before that I've been using scientific calculator for almost 10 years now. Okay, and I still make mistakes on those scientific calculators. Okay, maybe that is just because I'm a lot lazy and I keep on changing the method of calculation. I use my mobile, I use my calculator, then I sometimes use the computer calculator. What happens then is my practice on one calculator is not very good. Okay, so you should always practice on the same calculator that you are going to use for your examination, or at least similar calculator with the patterns of your keys to be very similar. Okay, so if you do that, then what happens is those small mistakes that you make on the calculator can be eliminated. But in the day, I always assume that there will be about 10 marks of mistake just because of calculator, not because of concept, but just because of calculator there will be 10 marks of mistakes. Okay, so this is how you should make sure that you study for your paper A. Now what about paper B? Now, first of all, paper B has been introduced from 2019. We literally had only 3 examinations up till now with paper B. Okay, but 3 examinations from IFOA and 3 examinations from IAI, if you do not consider other institutes, because these institutes do take examination from with the same name, so it's very easy for us to find papers and stuff. So you have basically 6 papers that you can use for practice. Okay, so at least you have 6 papers that you can use for practice. If you can find more, then well and good. Those papers used to be some other papers. If you can figure that out, then well and good, but at least 6 papers you have for practice. You can find question paper as well as answer directly by Google searching. Okay, just search IFOA past papers or IAI past papers, and you will find it in the first or the second link on their official sites. Okay, so at the time of the examination, make sure whichever examination you are giving, treat those 3 papers that you will have, treat them as your mock examination. So solve them with time constraint after you have completed your complete course. So you have 3 mock examinations without going for any tuition classes or anything. So you have 3 mock examinations there, and the other 3 papers that you have, use them as practice beforehand. So if you are giving examination from IFOA, treat Indian papers as as practice, and take IFOA papers as mock examination. Your written paper as well as your Excel or R programming. Now for a lot of you, even after doing the concept and the practice, the third thing remains for paper A. Paper B, we will talk about it later. The third thing that we are left with is online speed. So finally, now we have to write our papers on MS Office. Right? So paper speed, online speed is going to be very important. So first of all, your typing practice, your typing speed should be fast. Second, you should know how to write your particular equations in MS Word, Microsoft Word. Okay, now there is something called as equation editor on MS Word. On Microsoft Word, there is something called as equation editor. Now although it is not required right now, see, because you have a lot of time in examination, it is I would advise you to learn equation editor. Now I have myself made some videos. Now I have a YouTube channel called Too Irrational. Okay, I make relatable videos. Okay, so I have made 3 videos on equation editor right now. I'll be making more. Okay, so it's all about how you can use equation editor in your examination. Now even though it is not required to use equation editor, it is accepted. Okay, so you can use equation editor, but without equation editor also you can write all your answer. It's not that easy for us to check the paper if we write it directly. In those equation editor, it becomes easy. So practice right now. If you practice, then you can find out your balance, where you would use equation editor, where you would not use equation editor. Okay, I am looking for that balance myself, because this is new for me too. So what I am doing is, I try to solve all the questions that I have that I am going to teach. I try to write my own answers on Word for it. Okay, so that ways I can advise my students how to write your answers, whether using equation editor or whether without using equation editor. Okay, But I found equation editor is visually much better than without writing equation editor. So it becomes easier for us to then, visualize any mistakes or point out any mistakes if we have done some. So that is why I would suggest you to go for equation editor videos, okay, and learn equation editor, practice it. So how would you practice equation editor? How would you practice writing in Word? First of all, just typing speed. Search for typing tutorials online and you will get those kind of websites where you can type out and increase your speed. Second would be make formula sheet. Okay, so formula sheet is going to be very important for you. Okay, not only while studying and for revising before the examination, but IFOA has now open book examination, so you can use your formula sheet for reference while you are giving the examination. Okay, of course your formula sheet should be precise and formula sheet should be containing everything and you should know where it is. Now I can definitely make formula sheet for you and give it to you. It's not a big deal. Okay, but the problem would be that if I make that formula sheet, I would know where everything is and how to understand what I have written. If there is something written in short, if I've just written the formula, how to use it, that I understand. You may not be able to understand it. So if you make that formula sheet, you will be able to understand that a few concepts you have not written because it's very common knowledge for you, or maybe something that you need to remember that you have written specifically and made it bold, made it different color, whatever, however you feel like you should make a formula sheet. First by hand on paper, and then make the same formula sheet, try to make exactly same on MS Word. So for that, use equation editor. All the shortcuts you can learn while making the formula sheet in MS Word. Okay, that ways you will be revising all your concept, and second of all you will be learning how to write equations. And then if you feel it is too complicated, then use in your examination, don't use it, or use a little, okay, not much, but it will be very helpful. Okay, now let's come up to paper B. So for paper B, if we talk about Excel, now Excel, most of us have worked a little bit at least on Excel. We know how to write the formulas and stuff, but what happens is when we are solving our questions in Excel, the biggest mistake is we miss even a plus or a minus sign. The problem would be it is very difficult to figure it out at the end, whether we made a mistake, whether we did not make a mistake, where did we actually make a mistake. Sometimes what happens is just by looking at the answer you can tell you made a mistake, but where did I make a mistake? It is very difficult. Then second is we do not have a lot of practice material for Excel or for R programming. So what you can do is your normal questions from your book, from your practice booklet, use them and try to figure them out. How would I solve that particular question in Excel? So that ways you will have to practice Excel. It's very important. Now even though paper A contains 70% of your mark and paper B contains only 30% of your mark, and I always point that out to students that if you score 86 in paper A and even if you score 0 in paper B, this score combines and becomes more than 60. I think it is 60.2 or something. So you'll definitely pass. I always say then concentrate more on paper A. Yes, definitely you should concentrate more on paper A, but you should not neglect paper B. That is very important. Okay, so even if I'm saying that you can get 0, but if you get, let's say, about 50 to 60 marks in paper B, that would help you a lot, and that would reduce this to maybe 70 and maybe yeah, about 70, let's say, okay, would be good enough here. So if you make some mistakes in paper A, so you will have room because you are scoring good in paper B. Okay, 50 and 60 I'm saying is good, because what happens is even a small mistake and 20 marks are reduced, or maybe 25 marks are reduced, so it becomes difficult. So this is good. 50, 60 getting in paper B is good, but you should again aim for 90. You should never aim for 50, 60, because you will definitely not get 50, 60 then. Okay, so practicing, how would you practice? All your book questions, written question, try to figure them out. How would you solve it in Excel? Just sit there, keep your book. After you have learned the full concept, after you have solved everything that you can of that particular chapter, sit with Excel and try to figure out how would you solve it. Just because we don't know, that is why we ignore it, and that makes the biggest difference. That makes the biggest problem. Okay, so paper B, solve all the sums that you can from book, from your practice booklet in Excel. Then you can ask for what other practice material you have, how the questions on the examination will be asked. For that you have mock papers from the institute. You have these old question papers that you can refer from these institutes. Okay, but the first would be practice. Okay, that is very, very, very important. So same thing with Excel and same thing with R programming. So for R programming, what happens is almost for everybody, R programming is the first time you would be coming up with any kind of programming. Okay, so first time, if it's a first time, then practicing is very much important, right? Again, I would suggest the same thing. First you will have to learn the concepts. Second would be practice all the types of questions that you see in your book, in your assignment, and practice them on your R programming. How would you solve a particular question? One of the biggest advantage that you can have on paper B is going to be YouTube and any internet material. Why am I saying that? If you cannot figure something out, if you don't know how to remove blank cells from Excel, or how to write a particular thing in R programming, all you have to do is search. For Excel, maybe YouTube is very good. For R programming, YouTube, I don't think it will be able to, but almost any question you may have, internet, you just Google search it and you will be able to find the solution, but you will have to put in time. Okay, most of the student ignore paper B, and that is their biggest downfall. That is where they receive only 10 marks, 20 marks, and then they fail just by 2 marks or 3 marks. And here is where the main loss is. Okay, so you have to give a lot of time on paper B as well. So when I say study 2 hours daily, that I was talking about just paper A, not about paper B. And that did not include working on equation editor, or working on your speed of writing speed and something. So you have to dedicate at least 3 hours a day on study. Okay, that you will have to make a timetable for. If you do not stick to regular studies, what happens is you will have a lot of pressure at the end, and that pressure makes us make mistake. Okay, that gives us a lot of anxiety, that makes it difficult for us to study in the end. So if you do regular studies, if you're making sure that you're practicing your paper B regularly, as a particular topic ends, can you solve it in Excel, can you solve it in R programming, you can ask me what are the chapters that you should practice on. which questions do you know specifically, if a particular question you can practice it in Excel or not, or if you have a problem, you tried it but you have a problem, you're not getting the same answers, what might be the problem. Okay, so these kind of questions you can ask. Now there are so many assist groups, there are so many people, you know, students who have made groups on WhatsApp, on Telegram, on so many Quora and so many different places, where if you post a question they will reply answer. We SMONG have, you know, assist groups of every subject, and the subjects that I teach, that is CM1 and CS1, I am active on those particular groups, and I make sure that you know, if a student asks a question, it would never go, you know, unanswered. Either some other students answers or I would answer. Whenever I get time, I answer those questions. That is usually within that day. Okay. At night usually I sit and I try to see if there is some question or not, I would usually answer it. So even if you are studying, you know, by your own, you have not joined any classes, you will have to work and you will have a support of a lot of students. So even if you feel like you know, you don't need assist, but definitely be in assist group, you may help other students, and with that what happens is you get a little bit of practice yourself. Okay, that is what I used to do when I was studying those subjects. I used to basically see what questions, what kind of doubts others are having. Okay, so that makes a big difference. Okay, so any kind of assist groups, if you want to join SMONG assist groups, you can just ask, you know, the office number and the number that you can see up here, you can ask there to give you the link of WhatsApp assist groups of whichever subject you want. Okay, so is there any question related to studying from a particular subject? Now see, I was talking about CM1, CM2, CS1 and CS2. Almost all 4 subjects you will have to follow similar pattern of study. What about CB1 and CB2? First of all, they have only one subject. Okay, and for CB1 it is accounting, so it's very important. Practice is very important in accounting. Same concepts are applied. You need concept as well as practice in CB1. Now the thing is, the course that you have of accounting, that is a UK course. Okay, even in IAI the course is exactly same that IFOA has designed. Okay, so the course is exactly what IFOA has designed, so therefore you are studying the same course in both and paper are almost the same. Now it is slightly different from the accounting that we study in India. Okay, so if you have studied accounting, it would be very easy for you to, you know, understand this subject, but you will have to practice because a few standards are different, a few concepts are slightly different. I would never call those concepts to be different, they are just slightly different. Same thing with CB2. CB2 is economics. If you have studied economics in 11th 12th, it would be very easy for you. Economics is purely theoretical. There is some part of practical part, but that is about 20 to 25%, so it's not much. Majority of the paper is theoretical. Okay, and if you have studied economics, it becomes very easy. So here you have to study a lot and practice a little. So in economics, definitely concepts are the most important thing. If your concepts are not clear, then it becomes very difficult to answer questions in economics, right? Now the relatively the amount of studies that are required in CB1 and CB2, especially if you have studied that before, is very less. Okay, so usually what happens is, if you have studied accounting before, people give this as an additional subject to another. So if let's say if you're studying CM2 and with it you feel like you have time, you can give CB1 as well. But this is one of the big problems that students have, because they are studying in college or they are working. What happens is, when they give multiple papers at a time, they don't realize that they did not have enough time for both, and they could not clear any one of them because you could not concentrate on those subjects. So it becomes difficult. So you have to make a conscious decision. I always say, never give two papers in your first attempt. That means if that is your first paper, don't go for two subjects, because you don't know how much studies are required in actuarial science, and it's all subjective. That means each student will have their own way of study, each student will have their own way of understanding, and each student will have their own time required for practicing a particular topic. Sometimes a student likes statistics very easily. For them, CS1 is one of the easiest subjects. Other times students are confused in concepts, cannot understand statistics, and for them then statistics becomes very difficult. Same thing with CM1, that is mathematical subject. Sometimes for some students it's so easy because it's they always say it's so simple, it's so conceptual, and sometimes students are like, the concepts are so difficult. It's totally depends on different people. Now I always try that every student should be able to understand every concept. So if there is any problem, I try to talk about it in 2 or 3 different ways, so that maybe if you did not understand this way, you will be able to understand in this way. So same thing with the CB1 and CB2 subjects. Concepts are very much important. Your study pattern will be similar in CB1 but different in CB2. Okay. So this is how you would study for the examination. Okay, now let's talk about what happens if you could not clear the examination. Now, first thing, okay, there's a question. If we decide to give 2 papers in the same diet, like CB2 and CS1 together, which has been given earlier, how much should we study daily? Yes, I'm going to talk about that. Okay, how to approach when you could not clear the examination or you have studied for it before. Okay, so let's say that we are talking about CS1. Okay, so in CS1, let's say you could not clear the examination, or you have studied, let's say, half of the subject, then decided, okay, I could not give the exam this time because I had this problem, that problem, whatever, and then you decide, okay, next time I'll give multiple papers. How to decide whether to give multiple papers, whether to give only one paper? That depends on how much do you feel you have already studied. Now, one way of assessing is, if you had given the examination, then you know how many marks you got. Okay, so let's say if you could not clear the examination by just 2, 3 or 5 marks, something like this, that means I would assume up to 60% to 70% of the course you have completed very well. Most likely the problem would be that you did not practice enough and you made a lot of mistakes. So most likely the concepts part is good, but the practice part requires more time, right? So at that time, again, when you go and start practicing, you will find that most of the topics, most of the questions, because you have done it recently, it becomes very easy for you. So for you, those circular questions and those star questions are going to be important while you're practicing here. Not all questions, not all topics would be important to you. You will understand that these topics had larger questions. I should always concentrate on those first because I could not practice them very well. So you have to decide how much time would you require. Usually, if you had a let's say small margin of you could not clear because of, let's say, 2 to 5 marks or something like that, or maybe 10 marks, even if you are thinking about 2 to 10 marks. Okay, then what you would do is you would not require the whole time to study. Okay, you will not require 3 months 4 months to study, because you have already studied the concepts and you have done a lot of practice. So first thing you would do is make sure that you have read all the concepts, read all the concepts again, make sure you have revised all the concepts again, and start practicing. You will find within 20 days of practice you will complete the whole course again. Okay, or you should complete in 20 days. Now if you are able to do that, then you have a choice of taking another subject, because 20 days will not hinder from studying from the other subject. But always remember, just before the examination you will have to give again 20 to 25 days to study and practice those questions again. So at the beginning, take 20 days, make sure you revise all the concept, make sure to practice all the questions once, and then at the end, before the examination, 20 days again, 20 to 25, let's say 25 days again, to revise the concept and practice all the questions. If you do that very well, then you will not have a problem with this subject. Now the next subject that you take, if you take an easy paper because you feel like you need more time here, you could not complete it in 20 days, maybe you took 40 days, or maybe it seems like you are going to take 50 days to complete the subject, then take an easy paper like CB1 or CB2. If you feel like you have already studied these subjects because you have studied it in your college, you have studied it in 11th 12th, so then you can take these subjects. But if you know that in 20 days you were able to complete your course, then you can take difficult subjects as well, CM2, CS2. Although I would not suggest CS2 is the most difficult subject in all of our 13 papers. Okay, CS2 is the most difficult, so you should concentrate on it a lot whenever you are studying. You can definitely give, especially if you have studied higher statistics in your college or something, that is modeling and using those models and stuff. But if not, if it is first time you are studying higher statistics, then you should not give any other paper with CS2. Okay, but other than that, CS1, CM2, CM1, these are reasonably easy subjects. May require a lot of practice, but they are reasonably easy to understand and easy to practice. Okay, and if you get, let's say, 10 to 20 marks less than the passing marks, or maybe less than 20, then you will have to decide how much time you can give for practicing. You know how much you practiced before, and you know how much practice you would need next. You can still, if you got 10 to 20 marks less, you can still complete your whole course in 20 days because you have already studied it. But if you got less than 20 marks, you're very sure that there are conceptual gaps in your studying, so you'll have to do the full course again. Okay, so anywhere from 2 to 20 you can cover your time up in 20 days, but definitely if it is between 10 and 20, try to figure it out for yourself. Okay, now there are few more questions. I will go one by one. CB1 examination is mostly application based questions, so how to practice and make sure every topics are covered. Now see, Nilesh, CB1 is accounting. First of all, because I'm not an accounting teacher, so that is why I will not be very good at answering that, but I'll still try to. First of all, CB1, see, it is easier than what if you have studied commerce, then it is easier than what you would find in your college. Okay, because they have taken the course of accounting and they said how do we understand it in basics. So most of a lot of questions are even theory in CB1. Okay, so I think about 35 to 40% of the questions are theory, and 60% questions, 60 to 65% questions are practical. And of course practical questions are going to require a lot of practice. Okay, So I would not comment on how to approach those topic. For that you will have to ask Deval sir. Deval sir is the one who teaches CB1. Okay, you can get his what do we say, number from asking in the office, and he will be very happy to tell you how to approach CB1. Okay, which particular topic is how much weightage or how much importance, although you should cover every topic. Just ask him how to approach that particular subject. Okay, but yes, it is mostly application based and you will require a lot of practice. See, there are balance sheets, there are sums to solve, so you will get most likely at least one question of 20 marks where you will have to make full balance sheets, right? So those kind of questions require a lot of practice. Okay, the same approach, concepts and practice. Then if we give only IFOA paper, is IFOA is valid all over the world? Yes, IFOA is much more recognized all over the world. See, there are few countries where they are like, we have our own examination, you'll have to give those, like that is basically Canada and USA. Okay, so if you're going and working there, for that they still recognize IFOA institute and they say majority of the paper you do not need to give again, but I think there are 3 papers that you have to give again out of total I think 12 papers. So you get exemption of 9 papers if you have completed all papers from IFOA institute. And almost about 90 countries, IFOA institute, the certificate from IFOA institute is directly recognized. So you can just take that certificate and take that degree and you will get job in those particular countries. Okay, then I had appeared for CS2 in September but could not clear it for 10 marks. Okay, so now I am planning to give CM1 along with it, and I've completed 15 chapters of CM1. So is it a good idea for it? I had cleared CS1 in September 2009. Now see, if I would have definitely suggested that after you have completed CS1 you should always go for CM1, but okay, no problem. Even if you have, see, you could not clear it by 10 marks, right, CS2, so you have now to decide how much time you will require to revise the CS2 again. Okay, so first thing you will do is, see, this is what one of the mistakes that I wanted to talk about students do, is that they did not clear this subject, but because we started studying this subject, that is why we leave CS2 for now and we think that before the examination we'll be able to cover it, right? So don't do that. Always after you get your result you realize, okay, I could not clear it. Now figure out next time how much time will I require to complete this subject, because you have already invested a lot of time, a lot of energy on that subject. And if you leave it for one semester and then go for it in the next diet, what happens is you will forget 90% of that particular subject and you'll have to start from scratch, right? That is not very good for us. So our aim is going to be, first clear everything in 20 days. First clear out everything that you can from every problem in concepts, every problem in practicing that you may have. You should clear it out in first 20 days. Okay, and then definitely your CM1 studies will still be going on. Okay, don't leave that. That is also very important, but concentrate on CS2 for 20 days. Read the book, read all the concepts. Sometimes you will feel like, okay, I do not require, because I know what this concept is, I do not require. Just solve the questions for this particular topic. Okay, and when you solve you will understand, yeah, I know this, I don't need to solve this, I don't need to solve this, and you will move forward. So first thing would be, solve it in your head. Can you understand this step, then this step, then this step, then okay, yes, I know how to solve it, let's move forward. So you do not need to solve every question, but definitely there will be some difficult question that you should solve, because there were definitely difficulties. That is why we could not clear the exam, right? So make sure to understand what were the difficulties, which topics were the main problem. Okay, So first clear those doubts in 20 days, and you will also require later on 25 more days with these particular subject as well. So when you're giving CM1 as well, what happens is you will have to make sure to make time for CS2 in the end as well. So you should not have backlog of CM1 at that time. So at that time, maybe 2 hours of CM1 studies at the end, and for CS1 you will require most likely, let's say, 3 hours of studies, because you haven't studied it for almost 2 months or 3 months now, correct? So for CM1 at the end, if you just want that I do not need more than 2 hours, for that you will have to make sure that you regularly study and make sure that as you complete each chapter, you are practicing all the chapters and making sure 90% of your doubts have been cleared of those chapters. Okay, and what happens is first 15 chapters of CM1 are easy. Those are the financial mathematics. Then we come up to life contingency. That life contingency part becomes very difficult because it moves very quickly. So at that time you need a lot of practice. Okay, then I'm giving first paper CS1 on April 2021. So you are giving your first paper as CS1 on 2021. You have enough time, as I was talking about at the beginning. Few things. First of all, practice typing. Make sure you understand equation editor. Make sure your concepts are very well concepts and practice. Okay, concepts and practice. And if you practice all your questions 3 times, if you practice your practice sums 3 times, then you will not have any problem. Okay, and CS1 is comparatively easy because it does not have a lot of calculation part. It has a lot of concepts part, but questions are very similar, so practicing becomes a little bit easier. Now I'm studying both degree from my college exam and preparing CS1 paper together. How to manage time in such case? See, you will have to regularly give either 2 hours a day for at least 6 days a week, or about 10 hours, maybe Saturday, Sunday, 5 hours. If you study that ways regularly, you will not have any pressure at the end, because what happens is when you are giving college examination, most likely the college examination will be in May. Okay, so before that, up till April, you will be studying CS1. Then you will have a lot of pressure of college examination. So you will have to make sure that you do not you have to make time for both. So when I'm saying 10 hours a week, you still have a lot of time to study for college. Maybe college will require almost 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day, so you have to make that much time. So you'll have to then, maybe on weekends you just study CS1, and on weekdays you make sure that you study your college examinations, right? So I appeared for CP2 and could not clear with short of 9 marks. Now I am thinking to keep CP2 on hold and study for CP1. So what's your suggestion on this? Now see, I always thought that CP1 would be studied before CP2, but I think that is not very much different. I don't think it will matter much if you study CP2 first. Okay, but definitely I would suggest do not keep that at hold. As the same thing I would suggest, give at least 20 days for the same subject, so that you revise everything and then decide whether you are going for CP1 or CP2. Okay, or even you can go for both. I know it's going to be a big commitment to go for CP1 as well as CP2, because both subjects are huge. So according to me, I would definitely suggest go for only one of those subjects. But because you have invested so much time already on CP2, what I would suggest, actually, if you feel like you would not be able to do it in 20 days, it will require more than 20 days at the beginning, then you can leave CP1 and go for CP2 and go for CP1. Then after you have cleared CP1, you will have to approach CP2 again as a fresh subject. Okay, because then assume that you have no knowledge about CP2 and then you will be starting it again. So this is going to be how your approach is going to be. If you're concentrating on CP1, no problem. But next time when you give CP2, approach it like you had never read that subject. So you will start from the beginning, reading all the concepts, making sure your basics is clear, and then going for the practice part. Okay. How much time do you think is required averagely on CP1? Now CP1 is a lot much, it is, what do we say, related to the subjects that you have studied before, right? So it will require knowledge of all CM12, CS12, okay, and maybe CB12 as well. Okay. So it depends on how much do you feel like it will require for each topic. Averagely, I would suggest it requires definitely more time to study CP1, but again 2 hours daily at the beginning would be very easy to approach. And let's say when you give 2 months of 2 hours daily, and after that increase it up to 4 hours, because at the end you will have to increase more practice. Okay. So 4 hours, that 2 months, and I am very sure at the end you will require much more time, correct? So let's say at the end, maybe this goes for 1 month, okay, and at the end you will maybe give about 4 to 5 hours each day, okay, for last, let's say 15 days or 20 days, right, for practicing. So again, see, as different students have different approach and they have different capacities. Now if you ask me, I am such student where I do not require a lot of time on concepts and I do not give a lot of time on practice. Okay, so what happens is my study time might be less and maybe I understand things very well, but I make a lot of mistakes while I write my examination. Okay, because I do not do enough practice. Okay. So even if you learn concepts very fast, the practice time does not go down. Okay, so for every type of students, the practice time remains same. The problem is the concept time is different from different students. So some students may require less time to read the concepts and understand. Some students require more time. Okay, so that time may vary. So at the beginning, for the first 2 months, if you give 2 hours, then it becomes easier for you to approach further and figure out how much time you will require. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so CP1 I would suggest definitely requires more time. Just start with 2 hours daily and then figure out how much time is it taking you further. Okay, so later on maybe 4 hours to 5 hours. So if I start now, then I'll be able to manage complete CM1 and CS2 for April 2021. Yes, you can. Okay, so always make sure, see, the time of registration, last date of registration would be I think 6th or 7th Feb. Okay, so you have time up till then to decide whether you are giving 2 papers or 1. So at least 70% of both the subjects should be completed by that time. Okay, what happens is that mistake I made a lot at the beginning, that I used to register for multiple subjects, and because I did not give enough time, I could not clear any one of them. Then I realized that why am I wasting so much money? I should decide before I register for the examination whether I could give that examination or not. So for that, this was my threshold. If I feel like I have completed 70% of the course, completed means practice 2 times, 70% of the course, only then I registered for that examination. Okay, so that would be up to whatever topic you are. Have you first of all cleared, practiced once, made sure that you mark your difficult questions, and then after a few topics you came back and cleared, made sure that you have practiced those particular topics again. So if I have done that for about 60 to 70% of that course, only then I would register for that particular examination, so that even if, let's say, after that I could not study, at least I do not feel like not giving the examination. I'll be like, okay, I have studied 70% of that course. And obviously you will study 100% of one of those, correct? That is why you could not study the other. So at least you have knowledge of 70% of one and 100% of the other. So you will clear this, and at least you will give this examination and not feel like you wasted your money or you wasted your time, because there will still be a chance of clearing this. But definitely I am hoping that if you have cleared 70% of both the subjects by, let's say, 1st February, then you are well ahead of your schedule to give your examination in April. So see, if you're targeting 70, realistically you will come up with 50% of the course. But if you have completed 50% of the course, I would still suggest you can give both the examination, but at least 50% of both the papers by 1st February. So that is why give 2-3 days for yourself, so that you don't make that mistake of going for last day registration. Don't do that. Okay, so whenever you feel like you could not clear the examination, don't get disheartened. For a lot of us, that would be the first time you would see failure, because school usually we don't see much failure. And the students who are in actual science, I'm very sure they were very good in their school time, right, and their college time. But what happens is, actual science is now that level professional examination where we do see failure from time to time. There are students who clear the examination in their first attempts every paper, and they are very dedicated students. I'll tell you, there are 2 types of students. One would be intelligent and the other would be hardworking. Who do you think would clear the examination in first attempt? Every single time, hardworking student would clear the examination in the first attempt. Intelligent students, they understand the concept very well, but usually they do not work that much hard. Hardworking students, even though it may take more time, they dedicate much more time to practicing those particular concepts. Okay, and because sometimes they feel like we are not as intelligent as that student, and that is why I need to work much harder, and that is why they dedicate their more concentrated time on studying a particular subject, and they understand those subjects better than intelligent students. So if you are hardworking, then you don't have to worry about, sometimes we do face problems, sometimes we do face failure, but we'll always succeed. If you are an intelligent student, start working hard. If you are called as an intelligent student, then you are not an hardworking student. If you are called an hardworking student, there is a very good chance you are also intelligent. Okay, so if everybody calls you are very intelligent, start working hard. That means you are not an hardworking student. and actual science will require a lot of hard work. Is actual exam does have any center, or exam will be online? At least for this April, the examination is definitely online for both the institutes, UK and Indian institutes. And according to me, IFOA is planning that the examination will always be online from now. Okay, so you will have to give paper both A and B at home. Okay, Indian examination may be converted back to written after maybe this session most likely is going to be April end, May, or maybe June, and after that maybe the next session that would be in October, November, that may be written on centers and stuff, because Indian Institute knows that not everybody has the facility of computers and very good internet. But IFOA, especially the students who can afford the examination of IFOA, they know that they will be able to afford a laptop and good internet, and their idea is that it should be accessible for every student everywhere. It should not be fixed on a few centers. Correct? The examination should not be fixed on few centers. Like there were many students from different cities, they had to come to different, because they did not have centers in their cities, they had to travel, stay at a new city, figure out how to travel inside that city and go for the examination. So that was difficult for students. Okay, sometimes because it was not possible to travel, because they had also their college examination, they had to skip these examinations. So these were some problems students were facing. So IFOA most likely would decide that they would keep the examination online from now on. Okay, that is my assessment from the things that I have seen. They may go back to written, I am not sure. Okay, but for April, definitely both the examination, IFOA and IAI, both are online. Now there is a difference. IFOA examinations are now open book examination. That means you can use any material that you want except for asking somebody else or using internet. These are the two things that you cannot use. Otherwise you can use any material that is available to you. Your own course notes, your the study material that is provided to you, or everything is open book. So that ways they don't have to invigilate you much, but they are very strict in checking. So if you are copying it from some place, you have to write it in your own words. Okay, that is very, very important. If you are directly copying from book and stuff, they will they would not accept it. Okay, so you have to write things in your own word. You cannot just copy paste from somewhere else. And IAI has created their own software in which they record your webcam and your mic in real time, and there are people watching those particular feeds. So even if you look here and there for a long time and they feel like there is somebody else you're looking at or someplace else you're looking at, they will give you a warning. So they have a very strict software made for their own examination. So for them the examination is very similar to how you would on any center. Okay, but that is mostly due to pandemic. They understand most likely they will create center examination later on when everything would be accessible. Okay, so for the next examination, next session, your plan is going to be, if you are giving more than one paper, make sure by the time your registration ends, so about 1st February, because 6-7 February would be the last date of the registration. So about 1st February, make sure that you have completed. Okay, 18th February is the last date this time. Okay, so about, let's say, 10th February, figure it out whether you are going to give 2 examinations or not. right? So that means at least 50% of the portion of both the subjects must be completed. So you can study for 2 subjects, make sure that 50% of your course is completed by then. Okay, and if that is not the case, then figure out which one you could go further with. Don't give them to examination. Okay, then as I said, if you could not clear the examination this time, figure out whether how much time would it require for you to clear your concepts again. So give at least 20 days to that subject again. Okay, so give 20 days to the subject. Make sure that you clear your concepts, practice again. At least 70% of the practice should be completed in those 20 days. Then you can be very sure that I will not require very much studies for the rest of the session, so you can go for the second paper. And then at the end, last month, 20-25 days, you will have to practice that again. Okay, so that ways you will have at least 2 times practiced most of the sums, 90% of the sums. Okay, what about the common mistakes? Now I talked about 2 types of common mistakes that students make. That is our conceptual mistake and calculation mistakes. But other than that, one of the biggest mistake is typing online or our online examination, that is our Excel and R programming. So if you do not concentrate well on those particular things, even if you're conceptually very good, it becomes very difficult for us to write the examination, right? Dhwani, I missed CB2 this time by 7 marks. How should I go about my studies before registering? So CB2, you have to make sure. Now see, CB2, how much material is available to us? First of all, we have the book. Now it's not very helpful, the acted material, the book, whatever you want to call it. Okay, it's not very helpful. CB2 is one of the vague type of a subject, so they have literally referred to another book. I don't remember the name right now, which book it is, but they have referred to another book, and they always point out, read from page number, page 100. Yeah, John Solomon. So they have referred to John Solomon edition 10, that read from page number 100 to 120 and such. Okay, so you need those acted material as well as the John Solomon edition, 10th edition book. Okay, so that is one thing that you would require, that you would study from. And also there is another book of John Solomon again, that is about practice questions. Okay, it just talks about the questions, that they have written questions and then they have given answers. Even if you do not have that, if you have that acted material and Slowman 10th edition, it will be good for you to study from it. Now see, again, economics, because it's a theory subjects, it totally depends on how well you are at theory. Okay, so what happens is, like, I am not very good at theory, so I always understand very well for me, but to remember word to word becomes very difficult. And economics, for a lot of topics, if you do not write word to word, it becomes, the phrasing and the specific words are very important. So you should always concentrate on specific words. Okay, first of all, whenever you are writing an answer, write it in points. Okay, and remember them in points. I always remember small points, and that ways I remember any concept of economics. That is how I study for economics. Okay, always write answers in points. Okay, and obviously concept should be clear. That is very much important. Okay, now the thing is, because it is open book examination, a lot of students said that CB2 has become very easy. But as I've told you, because you can search for your examination, if you know what kind of chapter, from which chapter that question is, it becomes so much easier for you to refer the material. But you have to then write it in your own words, because if you do not write it in your own words, and if they found out that you have written word to word from the book, then you won't get marks. Rather, they would cancel your whole paper. Okay. So especially for CB2, it's very strict. You have to write in your own words. You cannot just directly copy paste or type by looking into the book. So it would be more of practical kind of questions in CB2. They would be asking you, in this situation, how do you approach this kind of problem? Okay, what does economics say about this kind of market? Where would you apply macroeconomics this concept, or microeconomics that concept? That is how you would find the questions. Or in this situation, what kind of concept would be more appropriate? Okay, so conceptual mistake, calculation mistake, so we talked about that. Okay, then while writing the examination, so one of the common mistake is do not concentrate on online examination. Okay, so one would be definitely R and Excel, and other than that also, because our examination is online, typing speed. Some students said it was very easy, because what they have done is they are giving you more marks for similar type of questions than they would give you in your written examination, because they know it will take more time to type stuff than writing it on paper. Okay, so for a lot of students, they felt the paper was very easy, and they said we could solve it by and we still had half an hour, we had 20 minutes, we had 10 minutes, and we completed the paper very easily. And some students said that the paper was very lengthy, and the main difference was typing speed, because for a few students, typing on computer was very new thing, and for them, because the typing speed was slow, because the confidence in typing was not very much, that is why they face difficulty in typing those answers. So typing speed is very important. If you love reading books, write paragraphs from books. If that is not the case, then whatever subject you are studying, write paragraphs from that. So at least you will have concepts in mind. Okay. And as I said, writing equations. So how would you write equations? If you practice that would help you a lot. So because this is new for me too, I am practicing, I am also writing different answers in different formats, and I'm trying to figure out how we should write, or what would be the perfect way of writing the answers. And I figured out that we will definitely require equation editor, because for me, because I've been teaching the same subject for past 5 years, for me it's very easy to just look at something and understand what is the context behind it. But for a student for whom this is the first time they are learning that concept, on paper we write it like, for CM1 we write something like a and on typing we would be writing it as TA select 45, then 20. Okay, and what happens is, long equations, even though these look very similar, when we write very long equations it becomes difficult. Then writing something in power, Okay, so if I have v raised to 5, then writing that we'll have to write in this format, and some, then if you have probabilities, then you will have something like 25p 45 and something like that. So it becomes difficult. So reading this becomes difficult, right? But in equation editor, because it is the formatting is very similar to how you would write it in paper. If you're dividing, you will write it like this, but while you're typing, you will have to write 5 divided by 2. If this is easy for us to see, but if we have very complicated equations, then it becomes difficult to understand. So that is why you should learn equation editor. Again, I would suggest, because I have made videos on it, so you can watch that on YouTube. Just search for 2 irrational. This is the channel in which, let me just show you. Okay, on YouTube, if you just search 2 irrational, that this may come up, because I've been searching myself a lot. This is the channel. Okay, 2 irrational. This is C, equation in MS Word. This is what I'm talking about. I've made an introductory video as well as okay, here you'll find the playlist. This is our equation in MS Word. I have made 3 videos up till now. I'll be making most likely more. I've even made basic R programming videos. You can check that out as well when you're learning R programming. So here, one is about introduction to MS Word, and other 2 is about what do we say, all the shortcuts that you will require. Okay, so definitely check that out. 2 irrational is the name of the channel. Okay. Is there any extra certificate course which is related to actuarial science? There are a lot of certificate courses. First of all, if you are interested in statistics, you will require, now see, you will be learning R programming. Okay, that is definitely good, because we'll be learning it with us with our course. But then you will have to learn Python, SQL, VB rarely, but sometimes. Okay, these are, Python and SQL are important, you can say, what do we say, programming languages that are used in statistics. Okay, other than that, these are used in data science, so there are data science courses that you can do. Okay, but again, if you are going to work in a statistical field, in data heavy field, if not, then one of the most important softwares, most of important certificate is going to be of advanced Excel, because in any financial field, Excel is the most important software that we use. Okay, and the Excel that you're going to learn here would be just application of some topics, some studies that you are going to do in Excel. It is not going to teach you all functions of Excel. So to learn all functions of Excel, advanced Excel is something that you can do. Okay, then of course there are a lot of courses, but as you move forward, you will understand which courses to do. Okay, so right now I would suggest these are the 3 things that you can start. Start with advanced Excel, and if you feel like you like R programming, then you can go with Python and SQL as well. Okay, because Okay, my internet was giving me problem. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. Yeah. I think everybody can see me. If there were any questions that I did not answer, just write them again, because now the chat has been wiped because I had to reconnect. Okay, so if there was any questions that I did not answer, just write it down again. Okay, so these are the courses: Advanced Excel, Python, SQL, that you should start with. Okay, and then what happens is this actuarial science is a field where there are multiple places that you can go. One of the questions, I think, sir, this thing will help in future when we start our jobs. Yes, this thing will definitely help. Advanced Excel is something that you would require in any and all fields. Okay, wherever you work, you will be working on Excel in some fashion or the other. Okay, so Excel is very much important. Then secondly, if you are going for any kind of statistical coding work, if you like R programming, you are going towards general insurance, you are going towards data analysis, you are going towards investment, then Python, SQL are going to be very important. Okay, then there is SAS, there is Profit. There are many softwares, but those are softwares that are taught usually when you start your work. Okay, you can have data analysis courses as well, you can have higher statistics courses. There are a lot of courses that you can do with actuarial science, but obviously you'll figure that out when you start working. Okay, sometimes what happens is when you start your job, you understand that you require some other skill, though they will tell you that you require some other skill. So then you would go and take that particular course and stuff. Okay, so any other any other question related to subjects or examination? So anyways, whenever you have any doubt, you can directly contact me, or you can contact our office number, you can see up here. Right now we have also started, there are like I was talking about WhatsApp groups, WhatsApp assist groups. You can all join that. Would be very helpful to ask any doubts. Other students helps in those particular doubts and solving doubts and stuff. Okay, so that is one way you can approach clearing your doubts. Okay, so let's end our session here, and we'll meet for some other session or some other doubts. Okay, so bye.